Ready? This is the Museum of Jewish Heritage Video History Project. I'm Toby Bloom-Dopkin. I'm speaking with Mr. Armand Hanfuss, and we're looking at photographs from his collection. Mr. Hanfuss, could you describe this first photograph, please?
Well, those are pictures of my grandparents from my father's side. My father is in the middle. I believe he was 13 years old after Bar Mitzvah, and the date is probably 1908. That's my grandfather, his father, and his name was Didier. My grandmother, her name was Rivka or Rebecca. They, as I mentioned before, they died during World War I, and I was told by my father that they died of starvation.
And where was this photograph?
That's in Warsaw, in Poland. I believe 1908.
Thank you.
You tell me when. Okay. Just to return to my grandparents from my father's side, on my father's side, he died first, my grandfather, and I was told by my father that a year later my grandmother died, and she was so poor and she had absolutely nothing left that in order to bury her, he had to sell one of her dresses, the last dress that she possessed, it might very well be that one, and whatever he collected, he was able to bury her with the sale of a last dress that she had in her possession. Now these two pictures are the pictures of my grandparents on my mother's side. Unfortunately, I have less information about them than I have about the pictures from my grandparents on my father's side. I know that my grandfather died in Warsaw either in the early 30s or in the late 20s. I remember when my grandmother died, when my mother received a letter from Warsaw saying that she was dead, and it was tremendous grief and consternation. They had a fairly large family. They were, I believe there were three sisters and She had they had three daughters and two sons. One son immigrated to the U.S., my uncle, whom I met in 1946, and the rest of the family, all of them perished in the Holocaust, including my mother. All the sisters, she had two sisters and one brother left in Warsaw, plus the children, everybody perished in the Holocaust.
And also, if you could give the names, that would be
okay. That picture, the pictures of my parents when they got married in 1920. My father's name was Mates, or they used to call him Max, and my mother's name, first name was Ita Yittele. in Yiddish. That picture was taken in Warsaw.
And had you given the date? I'm sorry.
That's probably 1920. That's when they got married in Warsaw. This picture is a picture of my mother, taken in Warsaw in the early 20s. I believe is when she was by herself with my older brother, while my father had gone to Argentina.
I like to leave it on for about 30 seconds each one. It seems like a short time when we're taping, but when it's edited together, it goes by quick.
I'm wondering if I should figure out how to unplug that.
Unplug it.
Oh, okay.
This is a picture of my father, Matis, taken in Buenos Aires while he was residing in Argentina in the year, I believe, 1923 or 1924. He stayed until 1925, until when at that time he decided to return to Europe, where he settled in Paris, France. He had tried in vain to convince my mother to join him in Argentina, and she refused to do so. So he returned to Europe in 1925. This picture is the picture of my parents, Mates and Ita, taken in Paris in 1928. The picture of my mother is, I was already born. I was born in 1927, and as an infant, I have still some images of my mother looking like this. This is my first impression of my mother when I was born, or after, shortly after. This is an historical first page of a newspaper, Los Angeles Examiner. Lindbergh story of his solo flight to Paris where he arrived on Sunday, May 22nd, 1927. Actually, he arrived the night before, but the story was published all over the world on Sunday, May 22nd, 1927. That's where I was born, on May 22nd, 1927, on that particular Sunday. So it's very easy to know my age. It's just to think of Lindbergh's solo flight to Paris 63 years ago. This is my own picture as an infant, taken in July 1927. I was 3 months old. This is my school picture taken at the end of the school year in 1934. I was 7. It was taken in Paris, in public school. And that picture was mailed to my uncle in New York. There's an inscription in the back to that effect. This is the picture of my older brother, Daniel. Although when he was born, he was given Yedidia, but then it was changed to Daniel. He was born in Warsaw, in Poland, in 1921, and this picture was taken when he was 1 year old in 1928 in Warsaw. This is my my older brother's picture, Daniel, when he was, I believe, 3, and it was taken in Warsaw in 1924. My older brother he's the only brother that I have left, and he's still alive. He just celebrated his 69th birthday. This picture was taken, I believe, in 1931 while we were vacationing in the summer in a small place, in a small town located around about 20 miles from Paris called Viry-Châtillon. And we, during the summer, my parents used to rent 1 or 2 rooms, and we would spend the summer just outside of Paris. Now this hotel is called the l'Hôtel Bleu, the Blue Hotel, because it was painted in blue. And recently, last year, we went back just on a pilgrimage, and it's still standing and it's still blue. My mother, I still remember her from the image that I have of her is just like that. My mother Ita, my father Mattes, my brother Daniel, and I'm the little one on the left-hand side, bottom. I must have been 4. This picture was taken in July 1933 when we were on vacation 20 miles from Paris in a small town called Savigny-sur-Orge, and the family is without with the entire family without my kid brother, who was only born the next year. And my mother, I remember her this very well. My father, Mattes, my older brother, and myself. I was 6 at the time. We were vacationing with some friends, and that will be the subject of the next picture.
Maybe when he talks about the individuals, at that point you can move a little closer, because
No, I can't.
no,
Get
can't.
anymore.
Okay.
If you want to point on this one, we'll
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now this picture is a group pictures taken with a family, with friends who lived in our neighborhood in Paris, and with the exception of her name is Lucienne, the family's name is Brodsky family. They all perished in the Holocaust. I used to play with her. Her name was Clara. She was about my age, and she was arrested and perished in Dachau after the liberation. She died of typhus. I mean, she survived in the war, but died in camp of typhus. So now you can this is my father, Mattes, my mother, Ita, myself, and my older brother. Mrs. Brodsky, I don't remember her first name, she was arrested on the 16th of July 1942 in the major roundup of Jews in Paris. He managed to escape to the southern part of France, but was caught in southern France and was interned in the notorious camp of Gurs in the Pyrenees, from where he was deported to Drancy and then deported to, he was sent to Drancy and then deported to Auschwitz. This picture is the only picture that I have of the entire family after my kid brother, Robert, was born in June of 1934. This picture was taken on vacation during the summer of 1934 in the little town of Savigny-sur-Orge, which is a small town located 20 miles from Paris. Again, this is my father, Mattes, my mother, Ita, my older brother, Daniel, and my kid brother. As an infant, he was just a few 2 months old, Robert, and here I am. I was then 7. This picture was taken at the same time, during the same summer of 1934, right after the birth of my kid brother, Robert. My mother, Ita, is holding my kid brother, who is just a few weeks old. Probably either it's in July or August of 1934 in that small town of Savigny-sur-Orge, 20 miles from Paris. This picture was taken in 1937. I believe it was in Brunois. It's another small town outside of Paris, 15 to 20 miles outside of Paris. That's my father, Mattes, and my older brother, Daniel, 1937. So he was then 16. And my father, who was born in 1895, then would have been, he was 42. This is a picture of my older brother Daniel in the neighborhood of where we used to live. The block, the next block of our own block. It's in 1937. Then he was 16. This is the last picture that I have of my mother and of my kid brother, taken in 1939 in our own neighborhood. And I have a vivid recollection of the picture being taken in a little park which is adjoining a church. My kid brother was then 5 in 1939, just before the outbreak of World War II. This is the only single picture that I have of my kid brother, taken in 1939 at the age of 5. It's the same, it's just a single picture of the other picture where he was with my mother. This is he standing by himself. This is the only picture that I have of him. He was 5 at the time. Oh, this is a diagram of the apartment where we hid during the war, during the occupation. Originally, we had this apartment. Yes.
Can we just have you move your chair up and closer?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it's making a lot of racket.
Oh, it's making a racket. Okay.
Also, if you give the address.
Okay.
Okay.
So our apartment, this apartment, where we lived up to 1935, from 1925 to for about 10 years, was located in the 20th district of Paris, in a working class neighborhood at 17 Rue Henri Chevreau. This is the street here, 17 Rue Henri Chevreau. And up to 1935, we lived 4 people in this apartment, in this little thing. Actually 5, because my kid brother was born in 1934, and it became extremely tight. So this apartment became vacant next door, and my father requested from the landlord the permission to break down the wall, and which was granted, and that we should have a larger apartment. So you can see that we had 2 kitchens, one from the former apartment, and the new kitchen, which was here. Now this kitchen was converted into a storage room because we didn't use it. The dining area, we used to eat here, and we used to use this kitchen. Now we used to have 2 entrance doors here and there, coming from the street, from Rue Henri Chevreau. Our apartment was located on the 2nd floor. On the 15th of July, 1942, when the rumors became very strong that it would be a major roundup of Jews, my father had the ingenious idea to block this door with a wardrobe, to take off the knob and to block this door, and to eventually to use this little kitchen as a hiding place. Now, and that saved our lives. When the police would come, they would come. This door was condemned as well, so we had told the super that they should, if anybody came, we lived on the second floor on the facing door, so they would come through here, and we would hide, we would run, scale down the little window. There was a little roof, and run through here and get into this kitchen. Now, on many occasions, they came in and could not find us because they would not, this was blocked off with a wardrobe. So they would stop right there, even once they opened the window and looked out and only saw a little roof and could not think that this window was the window of another room which belonged to the same apartment. Now, as I've mentioned before, on the 16th of July, we did not know that they would round up women and children. So when they arrived at 6 o'clock in the morning, my mother and kid brother had stayed in the bedroom, while my father, my older brother, and myself, we went out and went into that kitchen. So when they came in through here, when they came in and tried to take my mother, and she was screaming, we could hear everything that was happening. Now, here was a little sink, and I've already mentioned the incident with my brother getting sick and had to relieve himself in that little sink, which is located here. Later on, my brother was hid in this little kitchen for 13 months. In the evening, he would climb out and he would get into this, and we had a little mattress. It was a very small kitchen. He could not sleep. He had to sleep in a crooked position because he could not stretch out. Now, this little roof, as I will show later on, there was a track. There was facing a track and facing a church, the church of Ménilmontant, and there was a tree which blocked off the window, the tree in full bloom. It was summer of 1942, and even people walking, there was like a little bridge, they could not see us. Even when we ran, although it's just a few feet, if we had to get out, they could. It was hiding escape route, that tree which was here. Later on in 44, because of lack of shortage of wood, that tree was cut down, and we felt like, we felt threatened, because if somebody would walk on the bridge overlooking the railroad track, he could possibly see people running on the roof and getting into the kitchen. So on several occasions, when the police came and even the SS came, and when in July of 1943, this kitchen saved my brother's life. That's the main street. That means that we had two views. We had a view on the street, facing the street, Rue Henri Chauveau, and this is the back, the rear of the apartment facing the little track. And I have found some snapshots where I could illustrate later on views from this side and from this side. Any questions? Well, this is the Rue Henri Chevreau. That's the street where I lived before the war and partly after the war. This picture was taken after the war, and it has changed a lot now because the neighborhood has changed and there are new projects, but the building is still standing. This is the 17 Rue Henri Chevreau. This little balcony, that's where we used to live on the second floor. Now, this here is my school, public school, just across the street, and that's the street here. Here, of course you don't see it here, is number 10, is where my mother was arrested when they came on the 3rd of August 1942. She was visiting friends across the street. It's on that particular block, Rue Henri Chevreau. That's my childhood street of, that's where I lived, and I played in the street and went to school. Everything happened here. Well, this is a up-tilt shot of my apartment with a balcony on the second floor of 17 Rue Henri Chevreau, and we had those two windows. That was the only balcony on Rue Henri Chevreau. There was no other balcony. We had the balcony to ourselves. That picture was taken after the war. This is the balcony with my father standing. That picture is taken after the war.
Do you remember how soon after the war, approximately?
Well, I went back in 1948 and 1950. I would say 1950. I would say it's either 1950. It's 4 years after the war. This is, again, the balcony with my father standing of the Rue Henri Chevreau, number 17, probably taken in 1950, same time as the other picture. Well, this is the view from the window from the rear, from the bedroom from which we used to run onto the little roof You have the church of Ménilmontant, which is a landmark of the neighborhood. You can see the condition of old building dating back from the last century, I suppose. But this is a good view of what we saw from our bedroom. This is another view of the view from our bedroom, taken from the other angle, and here you see part of the roof where we used to run, right here. Although you cannot see too well because it was a little, it's recessed, but this is the kind of roof that we used to run right here, and the kitchen window where we used to hide was located in this position. Now, as I mentioned before, there was a tree which obscured here the view. Now you can see this little bridge. The track is running here, the track. You see the little bridge, and even when people walked, they could not see us running because that tree was blocking the view in the summer when it was in full bloom, was blocking the view of our window. Now this little bridge, during the liberation of Paris in August 1944, there was a lot of fighting because there was a German train passing here which was stopped by members of the Resistance, and there was a lot of fighting going on under our windows. 4 or 5 people were killed of the Resistance, and there's a little plaque with their names which has been affixed on top of the bridge, which is still there. The plaque is still there. Now this picture was taken again in, I would say, in the early 50s, after the war.
Who took the picture?
I did. I had a little brownie at the time. That's why the quality is not too good. That's me after the war taking a picture of the little bridge beyond the track, on the other side of the track. Although you cannot see our house because it's recessed, but it was in this corner right here. And the name of the little street is Rue de la Mer. It still exists. The bridge is still there. Now you can see the plaque on the little bridge with the names of those who fell for the liberation of Paris in August 1944. It's right here. Here. That's another view of the bridge, with you see the name very clearly, Rue de la Mer. It's the same. It's another view, a general view of the bridge and the track running. Now, as a kid, I used to play on that particular bridge because it was free of traffic, and we could run around and do all kinds of mischief on that bridge, throw things or even occasionally get out on the tracks, although there were trains passing. I even remember having a big fight with a friend of mine right here and getting bloodied. And they even took me to the drugstore because I had a bleeding head because we were fighting.
This view that we're looking at is away from your hideout and your home?
It's on the other side of the little bridge. If you look at from the window, from the apartment, from the bedroom, you will see that bridge in the distance, and this is the view from the other side of the bridge,
So
looking towards the building, where the rear of the building where we used to live.
can the building be seen in this photograph?
It's recessed. It can be seen, but not. It can be seen. Not in this photograph. No, you cannot. You cannot. It's recessed. You see, it's inside, and the only way I could have taken a picture would have been to go up on taking a picture from the bridge. I could have, but I didn't think about it, and I didn't think of it. First of all, the roof also has disappeared now. They've made some renovation into that old building, and the roof they've done something, and it's not there anymore. So it somewhat it has changed. Although the building is still standing, the little roof where we used to run to the kitchen is gone.
Was this a roof with something below it, or a ledge?
Yes, it was a ledge. I would say several feet wide, and it was. I think it was holding. It was a ledge when there was some. I think there was a garage or some kind of warehouse underneath. So we could actually walk safely. It was not a little ledge where you could trip or fall off. It was fairly wide, several feet, and you could slip out from the window, just walk a few feet and get into the kitchen, the kitchenette. Well, this is the picture of my great uncle, Turin, and his wife in front of their little business, or what they used to be their business. He had a jewelry store on the Grand Boulevard in Paris. Now the date is 1942. He wears now you can see the Jewish store, so it was taken after May 1942. You can see that it's closing of business, that's what it says. Now here is a little, it was pasted on the door saying that this business is Jewish owned, and it has a commissioner, Aryan commissioner has been appointed to liquidate that business. My great uncle was an uncle of my mother, Turin. Her maiden name was also Turin.
What was his experience during this period? What happened to him?
He was as you can see, he was already in his late 60s or early 70s, and it was his third wife, and she was Alsatian. She was not Jewish, so he was protected because he was married to Aryan, a non-Jewish woman, and he was protected, and he got some immunity from arrest because he was married to a non-Jewish woman. After my mother, after the 16th of July 1942, my brother hid in his apartment. He hid my brother for several weeks.
Steve, would you be able to move back just for a moment to so we can see the whole photograph? See what the signs are. Thank you. I wonder what that says on the left, if it's anything relevant to our story.
This? It says...
I can't see it from here.
Purchase of jewels, gold, and platinum. Here it says end or closing of business, the same. And here it says big sale. And here, of course, you cannot see, but I do remember seeing there's a notice which has been pasted by the Aryan commissioner, which was appointed by the the Office of High Commissioner for Jewish Affairs to liquidate this particular business, like they did that to all Jewish businesses during that period. You did not have the right to own a business, so the French High Commissioner for Jewish Affairs would appoint an Aryan commissioner for each business who would liquidate that particular that particular business, and that was the case with my uncle, my great uncle, although he made some kind of arrangement. There was always some kind of deal that went on between the legal owner of the business with the so-called Aryan commissioner, and the Aryan commissioner authorized them to stay, not to conduct any business, but to stay in that particular store, in that particular shop, and without the right to conduct business. But he would still do some kind of business because he was involved in the diamond. And I remember when I used to go to his store, occasionally he would give me a little stone that I would carry to the Diamond Club, which was located Rue Richer, and I would see somebody and I would give that little package, containing a diamond stone to somebody for the purpose of consignment, and eventually selling. There was still some business being conducted during that particular period, although legally you were not allowed to do any business. This is the well-known yellow star, Jewish star, that all Jews from the age of 6 had to wear on their clothing. My kid brother, including my kid brother, who was then 8, he had to wear one. Now we had to buy that and even give the authorities, to obtain these stars, you had to surrender some of the textile coupons, like if it was a commodity that you had to purchase and give up some of the textile coupons which was rationed for rationing purposes, and you had to surrender that in order to get some of these stars. When my mother was arrested on the 3rd of August 1942, she was sent to the internment camp of Drancy. On the August 14th, I mailed her this card, which was returned to me because she had been deported on that particular day. Well, you can see my name here, although my name, 17 Rue Henri Chevreau, Paris 20th arrondissement, is a name, Ita Henfus, and the address in the camp of Drancy. And then it was returned to me with the inscription, transferred. Returned to the sender, and then somebody wrote in pencil, transferred.
Clip. It doesn't look like a clip.
This is the last communication that I had with my mother on August 14th. As I mentioned before, the postcard was returned to me from Drancy. It says, Paris, August 14th. Dear Mommy and dear Robert, I hope that you have received the clothing parcel as well as the 2 food parcels that I sent to you. Here, everything is okay. I take care of the house, and I am in good health. I hope that you are in good health also. Send me the food ration card and answer me right away. I hope to see you soon. 1,000 kisses for you and for Robert.
Will be readable. We can do that.
I will do a little bit of translation, that's all.
Yeah, just to get the flavor.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay. Well, this is a certificate delivered by the French authorities after the war, certifying that Mrs. Hanfus, born Ita Turin, born on the 13th of March, 1892 at Warsaw, Poland, was interned in the camp of Drancy from the 3rd of August 1942 to the 14th of August 1942, at which time she was deported with a son, Robert.
Maybe to focus in on one part of it.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I would say also a little further up if we can, to the part that was just translated. When did your family receive this?
It says it was issued on the 20th of October 1945.